Where's the music? Ah.
I apologize to everyone who knows the ritual. You're not supposed to speak until the music's finished, until I speak. But I'll give you a pass because I like you, because I like you. Welcome to Black Optics Podcast Media, also known as BPM. Today's special guest is Epiphany Jordan. And she's going to bless us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And she's going to tell us, she's going to give us a lesson on the human touch. I've also got my lovely Julia Reid with me, my wife. I thought it would be special to have her join us today. Before we start, I just want to tell Epiphany, I'm from England, as you probably can, judge from my accent.
I couldn't have guessed.
No. But I come from a Jamaican family. Now, understanding that, we are very touchy, maybe not as much as the Arabic or the Italians, but we're very touchy family. But I noticed that was when we was kind of, actually no, in my family it wasn't so much the case, but I've developed into a very touchy person. So that's why when I read your introduction, I was like, wow, I gotta get her on because I firmly believe that there's not enough touch in the world. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show. My name is Epiphany Jordan. I live in Austin, Texas, and I am on a mission in the world to redesign human touch. I feel like our current paradigm of equating touch with sex doesn't work for a lot of us, and it's led us to both not enough touch and too much unwanted touch. And I was super excited that your wife was here too, because you think about that, if this is something that where we equate touch with sex, that it's something where it's really problematic for single people, because then if they're not in a relationship, that they don't necessarily get their touch needs met. But I've actually found that it's something that can affect people who are married as well. There's a lot of touch-starved married people out there. And during the past year with the pandemic, touch was one of the things that we really lost, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh wow, okay, that's something that's really missing from our lives." And I think that as we're coming out of the pandemic now, I think this is the perfect opportunity to be having more conversations about this and figure out if it's something that we want to look at or do a little bit differently moving forward.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think one of the hardest things for me, because if you see me in my daily life, I'm going around hugging everybody, touching everybody. As soon as they said, okay, 1 meter, 50 centimeters, it was like, you can't touch anybody. And I was like, oh no. And then you gotta my how do you say, my Julia, Visitenkarte, I forgot. My business card is my smile. That's how I introduced myself, with this big smile. And then I had to put these masks on, and I was like, oh no. So now no one sees my smile, and no one feels my touch, So it was very difficult for me to adjust to this whole pandemic the last year. Do you want to add anything, Julia?
To be honest, I couldn't hear you properly. You were a bit like a robot.
Oh no. Okay, that's probably reception. What I was basically saying, did you hear me, Epiphany, at all?
No, you were like going really slow.
So
say it again.
So basically what I was saying was the last year has been really difficult for me because, first they set in the whole social distancing concept where you basically wasn't allowed to touch anybody. And that's how I am in my daily life. I touch everybody. I hug them, I let them know I'm there, I let them know that I care about them. And obviously when they took that away, it was like, wow, how am I going to get into contact with people. You talk to people, but you try and look into people's eyes. But to me, I also feel like looking into people's eyes and touching them is the two most important things to do when you're making contact with anybody or communicating. So that was what was really difficult for me in this whole last year or so. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Okay, so many people are feeling disconnected, lonely, overwhelmed, and isolated. How can touch address this?
Okay. I mean, if you think about it, it's actual physical connection, and it is the place where, I mean, if you think about just starting out our lives as infants, I mean, there are so many studies that have been done talking about the fact that, infants and babies won't thrive without touch through the first couple of years of life. I mean, it sets them up for so many good things. It helps you regulate your emotions. It helps you form connections. It it helps with growth. I mean, they give infants that are premature in the hospital. I mean, there are groups of people who go and like cuddle premature babies, and it helps their organs develop and they gain weight and all this stuff. So, I mean, that's really the place where we first learn that we're loved and nurtured and cared for, is when we're being held in our parents' arms, or our family. And, I think that our bodies don't ever forget that. And so it's a way that can really make people feel connected and seen in a very brief period of time. I mean, it can be something even as simple as like, a touch on the shoulder or something. There was a study done about a librarian where they were checking out books, and like a few of the people, they touched on their hand as they were doing, and then others of them they didn't, and the people who had their hands touched came away feeling better from the encounter. So I mean, it's something that's very powerful. You don't need a lot of it, but it can really help you feel like you exist and that the person who's touching you cares for you. If it's touch that you want. If it's unwanted touch, that's a different topic altogether, right?
Yeah.
So,
Julie, you want to add anything?
I'm actually curious. Oh, go ahead.
I would like to, I'm not a huge hugger. Let's put it like this. And I wonder, I come from a family where hugging really isn't a big thing. Like the occasional kiss on the cheek when we say hello and goodbye. But, I wonder if it's also a character trait, basically, or is it really just down to how I then experience childhood, for example?
It's a great question. I think there's a ton of different factors, which is part of the reason, it's like, oh, this seems really simple, but it's very complicated. A lot of it is your upbringing. It can be cultural, like you were saying, the Jamaicans touch not as much as Italians, but then not even as much as people in Britain or the United States. It can have to do with your gender. It can be a religious thing. It can be, situational, like if your boss asks you for a hug, they may think, oh, I'm just a really affectionate person. I want to hug everybody. But for their employee, it might feel very different. That they're like, I don't necessarily want to hug, but it's the boss. So that, I don't feel like I can say no. It can be location, like you might hug your coworkers if you were out having a drink, but you wouldn't necessarily hug them at the office. You know, I mean, there's, it could be different, you know, like you're married and, you know, if it was somebody that you felt like it was a man who had a crush on you, like you might not want them to touch you because you don't want them to get the idea that, you know, that that you're have feelings for them or what have you. So, I mean, there's a lot of different factors and, you know, and then let's add on top of all of that, you know, I mean, it can change from moment to moment and person to person and thing to thing. You know, it's like when somebody says no, it could be not right now, not with you, not that thing, you know, so it's like it can be really deceptive and really hard. And, you know, it really takes stopping for both people and kind of leaning into, you know, is this something that we want?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I've always been kind of the hugging thing. Actually, I don't know if I actually taught you, Julia, the longer prolonged hug, where we'd hug for like 2 minutes or something, or 3 minutes. Because I always thought that's like what I realized when I'm hugging somebody, they always tap on the shoulder, and that indicates that, okay, I've had enough. But if you can push them past that and say, yeah, I always push people past that. I'm like, look, we're not stopping hugging yet. I know you've had enough because you touched me, and they don't actually know that they're doing this because they're like, no, I still want to hug. But they'll say, it's just, they get nervous. You know, when you're hugging somebody a bit longer, they get nervous. It's like, you know, even you get nervous. It's like, oh, okay. You know, and I always push people like back past that. And I say, look, let's hug a little bit longer. And then you're going to feel a bit more relaxed when you do that. So I don't know if did I teach you that, Julia, or did?
The thing is, I mean, we've experienced people who hug longer, and then we developed the idea of the 20-second hug, which is like, we should hug for at least 20 seconds, like once a day or something.
Yeah.
But now that you're saying that, I'm thinking, okay, it could be that you're helping somebody get over this feeling of uncomfort somehow. But how do you know if that's not overstepping boundaries? Trying to get somebody to go to a certain point.
I think shall I take this one, or do you want to take it, Epiphany?
Oh no, I want you to talk about it, because it's, you know, I mean, I have my feelings about it, but I'm curious, you know, because as I've been sitting here listening to you talk, you're what I would describe as a touch enthusiast, which is wonderful. I mean, y'all give like amazing hugs, but then a lot of times, you don't necessarily recognize people's boundaries. So I'm curious, like, what your experiences of pushing people past that have been.
Okay, so when it depends on who the person is. If I've got a good repertoire with somebody already, I will tell them, because I only hug people who I know they like me. I will never hug somebody longer than maybe the customary 5 seconds if I know we don't have a good repertoire. You know, we're not too known or familiar with each other. But anyone I know longer, they're going to get the hug for about a minute, and that's it, because I want people to know that I care, you know. But so it's funny saying that. How I push them past it. Yeah, I think that's it basically. I wait until I've known them longer and I've figured the person out, and they're not going to, like, obviously put an harassment claim against me, and if it's a woman. But even men too, I hug men as well. I hug them longer because I'm like, with men especially, I think you said this in one of your podcasts that I was listening to, men are not comfortable with other men hugging them because we're automatically gay, or, you know, we're not men, we're not strong. So I hug men too a little bit longer. I think that's a good way to start, actually, is to hug men first and then hug women, because it's easy to hug a woman because you're thinking, I'm slightly attracted to her, but do it to a man when you're not, like, homosexual or something, and then you start to learn a little bit more about yourself and people. So that's how I get past the boundaries. So
I mean, after a certain point, do people go, wow, that feels really good, and thank you for pushing me past that? Or do they feel like they're tensing up? Or do they like it? Do they hate it? Does it depend on the person? Do like, when somebody sees you coming with outstretched arms, they're like, I'm getting away from him, or I don't know.
They duck under, like,
they're like, quick, he's coming.
Yeah. The thing is, it's actually the case of the woman at work, and the thing is, we live in Germany. So in Germany, I think if you know a little bit about Germans, they're very, you know, stay away from me. That's German people. That's their culture.
Yeah.
They don't want you to come too close. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
keep going.
There's a woman at work, and the thing is, what's with me is I tend to, I don't know if it's because I don't know I don't know how to put it in a nice way, but sometimes you feel sympathy for somebody, and these people I go and give them more of my attention because I feel like they're the ones who are going to be, looked upon as like, oh, I don't like that person because maybe they're a little bit overweight or, whatever. So I try and give them my confidence first and more of it so they can realize, I can talk to this guy. And that actually genuinely works. Like, I don't get people ducking and diving out the way. Most people see me and they're like, oh, thank you, you're there. Thank you, you're there, man. Because you make my day. You give me a hug and you show me that I'm there. And I think that's what it is. I think people are missing the attention.
Yeah.
It's a big problem in our society.
I love that. I love that people feel safe with you, and and there's actually probably a lot of people that you're hugging who they may never get that other than from you. Yeah. So that's lovely. I mean, as long as people, as long as you're like, okay, this person actually wants a hug, then I say go for it.
Well, I haven't had any. Sorry, I haven't
had any complaints.
No, not yet. So I'm awesome. Good for now.
Actually, I have a question for y'all. So Julia, if you grew up in like not a very touchy-feely family, has that been an issue in your marriage that, one of you wants more touch than the other? Has there been an adjustment, or you've been able to lean into it and go, oh, okay, yeah, this is actually really great?
It's really interesting you're asking that, because I would say I'm going through phases. I do realize that I like it. I like to be touchy, and I would say mostly I'm a touchy person. Like, I'd pass my kids and put the hand on the shoulder or something like this. When it comes to hugging and kissing, I realize sometimes I really have to be reminded by him. So he's mostly the one saying, hey, dude, hello, I'm here. What's up? Why don't you hug me? And I seem to, it feels like I forget it. It feels like it's not on my priority list because my whole system doesn't scream for a hug. Like, sometimes I'm really like, wait, let's hug. And then it's fine. And I like it. I enjoy it. But it doesn't seem to always come naturally. I have to remind myself. And I realized, I'm working with moms. I'm a coach for moms and their relationships.
Oh, wow.
Actually, this morning I spoke to one of my clients, and she and her husband tried to hug and kiss her, and she pushed him away, and she basically said, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
And I realized that's a big thing, and I could fall into this too. And luckily I have a husband who's always letting me know that this is not the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the book that I wrote was for specifically for single people, but my next book I want to write is about non-sexual touch for couples, because you're the woman that you were talking to this morning. I mean, I don't know exactly the situation, but she was probably saying, I don't have time for this, because when her husband started hugging and kissing her, she was like, oh, he wants to have sex and I don't have time for that. And so that's actually a perfect illustration of how this issue affects couples and relationships as well. I mean, there's lots of couples out there where, that they end up not touching because touch becomes so fraught, because, every time, because they think, oh, he or she is touching me, they want to have sex. And so, they push them away, and then it becomes where they're not having sex and they're not hugging and kissing. And it's hard. It's difficult. Hard to
I speak to women, they go to bed early and they say, and I would lie if I wouldn't have done that, the classic, go to bed early and say I'm too tired, or I just, all of a sudden I fell asleep with the kids.
Yeah.
So what would you tell what would you tell a woman when she's telling you basically, yeah, he came and he wanted to, and I didn't want to. Like, it's a boundary thing. I understand it. It's her damn right to say, I don't want to touch you now. But how do we unlearn this connection between touch and thinking that it has to be sexual?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that it's something that people need to have conversations about. It's about how you frame it, and it's like, if you touch means something different to every person. And so if you can sit down at a time when that's not even happening, like you're sitting and just having a conversation, and it's like, look, the reason that I don't want you to hug or kiss me is because I think that you're doing it because you want to have sex with me. And, can we set up something where we have an agreement that it's like, we're just hugging, or we're just kissing, that it's just a way of feeling closer and connected, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that, we're going to have sex. And ironically, like, a lot of times if you do that, then it gets you in the mood. I mean, like my ex and I used to do a thing where, if we'd had a really stressful day, like one or the other of us would just lie on the bed and we'd just do like really light touch, and it was just so relaxing. And then after 10 minutes, we're like, okay, now we can have sex, because it had actually put us in the mood, but it was a nice way to transition and relax and calm us down. And that's the thing. It's like when we think of touch as just something sexual, it's like, then we don't have touch for relaxation. We don't have it for comfort. We don't have it for support. We don't have it for grieving, and these are all times when physical connection is really good. I mean, one of the things that I think about and I talk about a lot is that we need to start thinking about touch and analyzing it from a standpoint of physiological health, because there's so many health benefits to human touch, and the hormone that's produced with it, oxytocin. I mean, it's like the list of health benefits is just like, you're like, wow, I want all of these things in a pill, but it's like, you don't have to take a pill. You can just, get them through touch, Of course, it's more complicated than that, but yeah, I mean, if we can start thinking about it as something that's important for health and wellness, then we can approach it differently and use it differently. So.
Okay, so what would you tell somebody who doesn't like being touched then?
So is this somebody who definitely doesn't like to be touched and doesn't want to be touched, or somebody who doesn't like to be touched but they want to change it? For the first, I mean, I think that's great that people know themselves well and they know what they want and need. And it's a matter of learning how to set your boundaries. I mean, I'm not here to convince anybody that they need more touch in their life or that they should want it. That it's a very individual choice. And that I think the main thing, the most important thing with that is for people to get comfortable with setting boundaries. There's a lot of, I mean, like I've belonged to different groups and communities where people are very touchy-feely, and, the people who, oh, come on, it's just a hug, or you're a prude or whatever. And it's like, if you're like, nope, those are my boundaries and I don't care what you think, and I feel very comfortable with setting them, then I think it makes it easier, and to be able to be like, no. And when somebody asks you again, you just, no, I'm sorry. You kind of like, I think it's important to kind of have a repertoire of either body language or things that you say that make it clear to people, because a lot of times you'll say no and people will be like, well, but why? And, they want you to explain so that they can like look for a spot to, get past your defenses. And so, The more clear and confident a person is in that setting of boundaries, I think the easier it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's really interesting. You mentioned a couple of times now that people talk about hugging or talk about touching. Like, is it okay? It's so weird. Like, why would a boss? I mean, I understand it. Okay, a boss wants to have the approval. Is it okay that we hug, for example? But it is very difficult. On the one hand, it sounds like it's so easy to just ask and you get an answer, but it doesn't seem to work like that because there's too many components around the whole situation. And like you said, you need to. I never thought about that. You need to make sure, just like I need to learn, that's the opposite. I need to learn to show people that I'm open for hugs. Whenever somebody approaches me who I like and hugs me, I'm always really happy. But there's other people who would probably hug others, but I don't seem to be too welcoming for a hug. I don't know how to, I wouldn't know how to be like, yeah, come on, I don't know.
I'll teach you 5 very simple words.
All right.
Would you like a hug?
Ah.
And then you stop. You don't say anything. Like, that might actually be a really good one for you, I'll say, Joe. Because it's like, you don't always know, especially if it's somebody that you're just meeting, or it is a strange situation. I mean, and especially now, like, as we open up and go back into the world, it's going to be really important. I was emailing with a friend of my mother's the other day she's probably in her 80s, and she was telling me she's comfortable with hugging people, and I kind of asked her why, and she's like, well, I don't know if she's like, if you're hugging someone, usually your faces are pointed in the opposite direction, where your head's over a person's shoulder, and then your head's over their shoulder, so you're not breathing on each other. But she's like, I don't know if they've been breathing, and they have like respiratory droplets on their clothes, and that's rubbing on my chest or something. And and I was, I mean, you can't like tell people what how phobic they should or shouldn't be around it, because all of us are going to feel very different. And I think it's going to be hard for people going back into this after being apart for a year. For some people it'll be really easy. Like for you, you're going to just be like, oh yeah, I can hug people again. I've missed it so much. But other people are going to be like, I don't know, I still don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable with it. So I think it's going to be really important to just ask. And it's like we make it a lot harder than it has to be, and that, just asking somebody, would you like a hug? And then stopping and being quiet, because a lot of times people don't even, they're like, whoa, somebody's like asking me for my consent. That's never happened. And, it's like a lot, I mean, so many of us, I think, spend so much time in our heads and not in our bodies, that it's like, it takes a minute to figure out, you're like, huh, do I want to hug? I don't know. Does that sound good? Does that not sound good? So like giving people space to answer and space to say yes or no, and then, I mean, it is complicated because some people will say yes when they mean no, because they think that they have to say yes, that they're obligated for some reasons. So it is complicated. And I think probably kind of the bottom line is just to realize that everybody has different comfort levels and needs around it, and it's going to be something different for every person. And if it's somebody, I mean, like I have lots of friends that, if you have like a long-term established relationship, it's like you can go to give them a hug. But if it's somebody that maybe I've only met once or twice, I'm probably going to ask them, and especially right now. I mean, like I met a friend's new girlfriend the other night, and I was just like, okay, I've had one vaccine shot, you've had one vaccine shot. Your friend here, your new boyfriend here has been in my pod for the past year, but, are you okay? Do you want a hug? And she did, but, not everybody feels that way. you know, and
Yeah.
some people won't feel that way for a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say, one of the ways I do it, well, the way I judge it is like I hug because I'm a hugger. I go around hugging people. I look at the faces of other people when I'm hugging certain people, and I can see that there's a little bit of a yearning for it. They want to hug too. So I'll be
Yeah.
like, I know you feel like you missed out. Come here, give me a hug, and I'll give them a hug too. And you know, and that's how I end up going around to everybody. And actually, I think I'm on a hugging basis with pretty much everybody I know. Everybody, there is nobody who gets away with it.
I love it. I love it. See, now you make me want to like fly to Germany and get a hug from you. I mean, seriously.
You're welcome.
I mean,
You're welcome. We could just
yeah.
hug for like 30 minutes or something.
Well,
just people coming past us like, what's wrong with you two? We just met. Yeah. Okay. So I guess this is a question for the people on the other side of things. So in the past year, we've had we've been hearing a lot of like sexual assaults and stuff. Do we have too much assault, like too much touch? For some people will look at it and say, oh, we got too much touch. You know, already I was touched by this guy wrong, or, you know, from a guy or a girl or a kid.
Yeah.
Why would we want more?
Well, there's a difference between unwanted touch and wanted touch. Unwanted touch makes a person tense up and feel bad, and you know, it doesn't feel good to us. You know, it's not. I mean, I generally is nurturing human touch, which implies that it's something that is caregiving and that it's sweet and it's soft and it's tender and it's designed to make you feel cared for and make you feel good. And you know, most non-consensual touch is not nurturing. You know, it's a lot of times it's about power. You know, who has power over whom. And you know, it's because I think because there's so much unwanted touch, you know, it's made a lot of people really afraid of it. I mean, I hear a lot of men saying, well, you know, I can't touch anybody now.
Yeah.
You know, because I you know, I don't know how, you know, I don't want to get arrested or what have you. And you know, so it's a matter of kind of coming back, and you know, it's like first the pendulum swung, you know, really far this way, and now it's this way, and so it's like going to be about coming back to a center spot. And you know, it's just something that we don't really think about, talk about, cultivate, and you know, it's kind of a different thing. You know, we're talking about what we've been talking about here is very different from unwanted touch. You know, they're not the same thing. So,
and how is your nurturing human touch different from a massage?
So there's a few different ways. Yeah, because everybody's like, oh, that's like getting a massage. And the first thing is that, you know, massage is kind of designed more to work on the muscles and the body structure underneath. It's something that needs to be done by a professional. I mean, you know, you can get a decent shoulder rub, but it's not, you know, it's something that you kind of need to know about anatomy and, you know, to really know what you're doing, or you can really damage people. So the touch that I'm talking about is very, very light. I mean, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit firmer, but it's not really like, you know, it's designed to work on the skin and not on the muscles underneath. And the biggest thing is that for most people, massage is a luxury. You know, it's like getting I love professional massages, but they're not cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
And, you know, this is something that can be done by anybody, anywhere. And, you know, if you're doing it with somebody that you know, it's absolutely free.
Yeah.
And it's also like it can be enjoyed by people of all ages. You know, it can be enjoyed by people, you know, in any level of fitness. You know, like if you're disabled, or you know, all these different things. You know, if you're elderly, I mean, anybody, young, old, massage is more, obviously you can get a massage if you're elderly, but it might not be as easy to get up on the table or, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot simpler.
Keep it gentle. Julie, you want to add anything?
Well, I just have a question. So it sounds a bit like you would say it makes sense to follow a plan or something, the way you do it, or it should be this or that, or it's about the skin. So how exactly does it work? Because I thought now you're just talking about like rubbing, I don't know, touching, but
yeah. So like there's different, the thing is, it's like we don't even know, it's like when you talk about nurturing human touch, the thing that most people probably think about is hugging, and it's like there's a lot of different things that can be done. Like holding somebody is, again, that goes back to being an infant, and it feels really, it's like our bodies are like, oh yeah, I know this feeling. This is what it feels like when somebody's taking care of me. But so there's there are different types of touch. It's like, and it's something that you don't really know until you play around with it, and you could be like, ooh, it feels really good to have my arm scratched, but when you like go like this, and just like do it with very light little fingertips, like that tickles or something, and or it might feel good to have a hand here, but it doesn't necessarily feel good to be scratched, or like your head feels good to be scratched, but your hair, whatever. So it's something where you kind of have to develop a vocabulary, and we haven't talked much about the book that I wrote, which was Somebody Hold Me, The Single Person's Guide to Nurturing Human Touch. And it basically has like a series of exercises so you can try out all these different things around touch. And, it starts where you're just like, people are just touching each other's hands. And, it's like, people are like, wow, that's really profound. That felt really good. I had no idea. I'm just like touching a person's hand. What the heck? And so it kind of allows you to go through and try out all these different things, trying different types of touch, and, like, oh, I liked having my my scalp scratched, but, the foot massage, that just felt weird. Or, if, when somebody touches me on my side, on my ribs, that's, my brothers used to tickle me a lot when I was a kid. So like, don't ever touch me there again. So, it's a matter of kind of playing around and figuring out what feels good to both people. It's different for everybody. It's not a one size fits all.
It's really funny you're saying that, because, okay, so I'm not a hugger. I will never forget when Wayne started saying, okay, why do you always touch me like this? Why can't you try? Like, he came up with certain ways of how he would like to be touched, and I was like, huh?
You're like, wait, what?
I can do that.
That's incredible that you have that vocabulary. Most people are like, they have no idea.
Well, the thing is, I really had no idea, and I still would say I don't have an idea. Like I say, it doesn't come naturally. But then, like, he did it to me, and what I thought was so interesting was, I remember saying to him, I don't even feel a difference. So is that what happens when you don't touch a lot with other people, or when that your skin gets a different
just
feel
dies.
to it? Yeah, it
dies.
die.
I could see that. I don't really feel like I know enough about the neurology of that to talk about that effectively. But just in general, think about it. It's like so many of us just spend all of our time in our heads. I'm totally guilty of that. I'm not, I'm like thinking all day, so it's like it takes time to be able to like slow down and relax and understand what it feels like in your body. Like last year, I was doing somatic therapy, which is all about, when you have something going on, and it's like, where in your body do you feel the emotions? And I'm just like, I don't know that. That thing, I have no idea. What are you talking about? And it took time to be able to go, and now I can do that. It's like, if I'm like, yesterday I got really upset about something. I thought I missed a deadline for something. And, it was like, I was able to like kind of slow down and go, oh, that I feel that in my solar plexus, it's that, that feeling of being nervous or something. So, I think it's a matter of, having to, just kind of getting used to it and tuning into it. But I mean, like our skin, we have nerve endings that are specifically designed to register touch. And there's a couple of different ones. I can't remember. There's one type of touch that's about, I can't remember the name of it right now. God damn it. But it's something rough or smooth or hot or cold. And then the other touch is called affective touch, which is like, it's designed to convey emotions. Like, this person's touching me and they're like, they're scared, or they're trying to soothe me and calm me down. And it's like, our skin is designed for that, but it takes some time to kind of figure out. I mean, y'all might play around with it a little bit more, and, and after 10 minutes or something, you may be like, oh, okay, that actually does feel different. And now I can feel the changes, but it's hard to tune into our bodies and know what they're feeling. So.
I actually remember now doing this podcast. Obviously, I remember having a hug from a guy. His name was Toby. He was very alternative, singing around a campfire. And he hugged me in such a way, I lost my knees. My knees just fell away. He hugged me and he put his hand behind the back of my head. And I was like, oh, yo. I lost consciousness.
That's how your mom would hold you when you were a baby.
I think so.
So I can see how that would feel really familiar.
Yeah, it was like the first time probably in years, because like although we were very touchy, I was saying earlier, like a Jamaican family, my family wasn't really that touchy, but for some reason that just came through on me. I think it's something I missed. I think I was compensating. That's why I'm like this now. I'm compensating for something that I didn't get much when I was a kid. And it's not really my mom's fault. I come from a family of seven siblings, so she can't be hugging us all. It's like, and some of them are more demanding. As with a big family, some children are more demanding. Because I'm a middle child, I've got that complex where I'm like, okay, I got to be independent. No one likes me here. I got to find my own way. So
right.
That's what it was. The second thing I wanted to say, I love getting my feet tickled. And unfortunately, I got a better half who doesn't like feet. Can you help it? Put some sense into it, please. I need my feet tickled.
I mean, I think you have to. I think you have to respect that boundary that your wife has. Sorry, I'm not giving you a free pass. But that being said, if it's something that you really, really like, I mean, you could always ask your wife, "Hey, do you mind if I ask a friend to tickle my feet?"
Tickle my feet, yeah.
Is it okay? I need to record this. Can I get some friends?
Oh no, wait! I mean, you can't spring it on her like this. This is like a long.
It's a long. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's it's about negotiation, and that actually, I mean, the thing about this kind of stuff is that having these conversations with people in your life around touch, it's like that process of negotiation and figuring out what everybody wants. I mean, that spills over into other areas of your life.
That's true.
I mean, it can spill over into relationships with friends or coworkers or bosses or parents, your kids. It's like you get to set boundaries with them, and you get to practice doing it. So it's a good skill set to have, for sure.
I actually have a question now, two. Now that you mentioned kids, well, two things. First of all, I think I had the classic mother syndrome. I never had issues hugging my kids. And I think I know that probably I would have liked to be hugged a bit more when I was young, so I'm giving it to them now. But I do feel like, and you mentioned oxytocin. Yeah,
Oxytocin.
That's the one. So I always had the feeling, okay, especially when the kids were like the ones who are still really young and they just want to live on me. I have enough of this, so it's really like, okay, the kids can be filled, but then I leave my husband out, and he's clearly saying that he would like to be hugged more, for example.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like, can there ever be enough hugging? Or could it be something else when I then say, I'm okay with the kids, but I don't want to hug you? Is that another issue then?
Well, I think what you're talking about is it's called being touched out, and it's a really common thing for mothers. And if you think about, so it's not necessarily that that you only want to touch your kids, but that the way that your kids are touching you is in a way that it's like they're taking from you. It's like gimme, gimme, gimme. And so there's a difference between giving touch and receiving touch. And this is also something that's, I think, a really good delineation for couples to make, especially in a situation like this where you have new kids. And so, like you might have been more receptive to hugging your husband if you had been like, okay, well, the kids all day, can you just give me some touch and kind of fill me up? I mean, I had a hands-on business for several years here in Austin, and one of the groups who just absolutely loved what we were doing was new mothers. And I described it as we were kind of refilling their nurturing banks. It was like they spent all day long giving touch, and so when they would come to us and they would be receiving, and it was like, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to reciprocate, you just lay there and let us touch you and kind of love you up and fill you back up again. I know, right? You're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing.
That sounds really good.
And they, and they would like, at the end of it, they would just be like, oh my God, now I'm ready to go back and take care of my kids because, so it's like, if you think about it like a bank account, it's like you have like this bank account for touch and nurturing. And when you have young babies, it's like the balance goes into the negative, right? So it's like you need to have somebody make a deposit into your nurturing bank to refill it up, so that you have it for yourself, you have it more for your kids, you have it for your partner. So yeah, I mean, that might be something worth trying. And that might actually be something that you can tell some of your moms that you're coaching as well. Ask, when they're like, I don't want my husband to touch me, you can be like, well, ask your husband to touch you without expecting anything in return. Just can you just put your hands on my shoulders for a few minutes, or run your hand along my arm or something, and don't and make clear, this is not I need this right now, and then we can talk about what happens afterwards. Or you can take turns with it, where it's where, okay, you're going to lie there, I'm going to lay here, and you're just going to touch me for 5 minutes, and then we're going to switch off, and you're just going to lay there, and I'm going to touch you for 5 minutes. Wayne's all like, oh my God, I want that so much. So so it's like, if you can make it really clear, because a lot of times it's fuzzy, it's like, like your client was saying this morning, oh, I don't have time for hugging and kissing, because it's like, maybe her husband was just hugging and kissing her to be affectionate, and maybe her husband was hugging and kissing her because they wanted sex, and it's like, it wasn't clear. And so, I think a lot of times people don't want to have these conversations because they feel very unromantic. It's like, we're all supposed to be mind readers around this, but at the same time, it's like being able to have these conversations, make it so that people get what they want, and you don't end up in a situation where you're pushing the other person away and they're like, I don't even know why why that happened.
Mm.
You know?
I think it's really, really important that you mentioned that, because your book is about singles, right?
Yeah,
And I really do see a lot of couples, like, they don't touch, they don't talk. So
right,
they don't touch and they don't talk about what they need. And it seems to be so normalized in society that couples just
right.
don't like each other anymore at some point. I don't know what that is about, but that seems to be happening a lot, and they don't seem to be able to talk. And now you're saying that, and that it's important to talk about it. So please
Yeah.
write this book and get it out there.
Yeah, I would actually. I don't know if you want to. One of the reasons that I haven't really gotten going on it yet is because I want to interview more people. I want to
Mm,
interview the person in a I want to interview people who are in a couple and they're the person who wants more touch, but they maybe push their partner away, because I want to kind of find out their thought process and find out what they want to know. I mean, I have all these ideas about it, but at the same
mm,
time, I want to know what they need out of a book like this. So if
mhm,
you have people that are interested in being interviewed, that would be fantastic.
mm.
I would love
I
to.
can get there.
That would be great. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Really, really interesting topic. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how did you come to write a book about platonic touch?
So, I had the hands-on touch business in Austin, and I'd been doing it for about 3 or 4 years. And I broke up with my partner of 5 years, and I knew from the work that I had been doing that if I wasn't in a romantic relationship, that I wasn't gonna, that I would be on to get touch. My relationship we had a great sex life, and it had been very touch centric. We were always hugging and snuggling and kissing and, holding hands and all that. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm not in a relationship, then I'm not going to have that. And so I decided to write the book. Also, from kind of similar with massage, the hands-on work that we were doing was not inexpensive, and I knew that there were a lot of people who needed access to this, but couldn't afford to come and see us, or they were geographically unable to, or what have you. And I wanted to give people a less expensive option to get more touch into their lives.
Mhm.
And also to kind of recast touch as a social activity instead of a sexual activity. Like, the exercises in the book are actually designed to be done in a group setting.
Mhm.
Because it's like that's the thing, it's like we think if one person is touching another person that it's going to be about sex. And so if there's 4 people there, then all of a sudden you're like a bunch of little kids, like, goofing off and giggling and, having fun, and it's playful and it's innocent. And, it's, you're probably not going, oh, okay, well, there's 4 of us here and we're touching each other. Well, hey, it's about to turn into an orgy. No, it's not, it's like, because it just it feels awkward, and it's a different dimension. It changes the social dynamics a lot.
Okay,
So yeah.
so we're in a romantic relationship. Why should someone like us read your book?
Because you may have mismatched touch drives, and also because it's like, even if we're in a romantic relationship, it's like we still have to navigate this topic out in the world. I mean, it's like, we still need to, be able to communicate with each other and observe, learn how to look at, reading body language, or, watching how people interact. And also because, there's lots of things in there about navigating boundaries, learning how to ask for what you want, learning how to say yes or no. It's like so many people are just like, wait, I can say no to that? It's like, wow, that's a revelation. I mean, so much of the time, nobody asks us what we want or need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it's like we all have to navigate this on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, what are the biggest takeaways you want people to get from your book?
I think the biggest one is to realize that, that everybody thinks about touch differently, that it means something different to every person, and that it's a very individual thing that, we all have to kind of figure out for ourselves what it is that we want or need. And I really want people to start thinking about this as something that's good for your physical health, to be able to reframe touch as something that's a wellness practice, that you don't, I mean, it's like exercise, joining a gym costs money. It, costs money to eat healthy. It costs money for supplements, it costs money for classes or sports equipment, for physical therapy, all these different things, it's like expensive. And it's like, this is a very, very inexpensive way to, contribute to your overall health, your mental health. And that it's something that people may want more of in their lives, and to realize that, it's an option. Oh, the other thing is that if you do decide that you want more touch in your life, you're going to end up having to get out of your comfort zone in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's like, because if you keep doing things the way that you've been doing it, or you wouldn't be questioning if it wasn't working to begin with. So
yeah. So, something about me. I go to Thailand. Well, I try and go to Thailand every year because I know we talked about Thai massages and stuff, or massages being expensive. But once you go to Thailand,
God, those are so painful.
Wow, depends what you like.
Thai massage does not feel good. I mean, it's amazing. I have a friend who's a Thai massage therapist, and I'm just like, dude, you're destroying me. But afterwards, I'm like, okay, that was really great. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't. The thing is, I like my Thai massages quite rough. I embrace myself in touch, and I think getting a Thai massage, like I'll literally go to Thailand and have 3 massages every day, 2 hours each, so 6 hours just being massaged all day. And people are looking at me like, is that why you go to Thailand? There's so much things to do in Thailand. I'm like, I just want to go there and pay $15 for 3 massages, and I'm good. That's the pleasure I need. I should get Julia, of course, a course so she can learn to massage, so I can get it for free. That would be more productive, actually. But each their own. Do you have anything to add, Julia?
No. 1,000 questions, but that would just explode now.
Part 2, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Epiphany, I'm going to give you the floor. Please tell us where we can find you, your Hotmail, your Facebook, your YouTube, your website.
Sure.
Let us know.
Yeah. Pretty much most of my, well, let's see, not most of my stuff. My website is www.nurturinghumantouch.com. You can find links on there for a bunch of podcasts and videos and things like that as well. You can also find links there for the book. It's available on, there's links that go to, that let you buy it, that send you to the e-retailer of choice, but it's available in print and an ebook and also an audiobook. So that's easy to get. And let's see, on Twitter, my account's under Karuna Sessions. On Instagram, it's somebody_hold_me. I write stuff on there all the time. There's also there's Facebook pages for Somebody Hold Me and for Karuna Sessions, and you can awesome. And if you have questions, feel free to drop me a line, and I'll see if I can point you in the direction of resources that you might be interested in.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you one. Actually, just before we go, How did you get the
Yeah.
name? How did you get the name Epiphany? It's kind of like Greek.
No, it picked me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted it's my legal name, but it's not my given name. I decided I wanted a new nickname, and I was like, it's probably something that I'm just going to hear it, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, that's it. And sure enough, like a year later, somebody said the word epiphany, and I was like, that's it.
it. Awesome.
For about 15 years, I kind of had a dual identity. My doctor and my bank called me one thing, and my friends called me another thing. And then a few years ago, before I wrote the book, I got a legal name change. So
okay,
yeah.
All right, good. Then thanks for joining us. Hopefully we get you on again in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really wonderful chatting with both of you. And yeah, keep me posted and let me know when the episode posts.
Yeah, maybe like in the next 20 minutes.
Great. Very good. Very good.
We'll be in touch if we can get you some people to help you write your book as well.
That'd be great. I would love that. Thank you so much. I'm really wanting to interview people, and especially people from, I mean, my perspective is very Americanized, and I know that it's not the same for everybody in the world. So
no, definitely not.
Great.
Okay, then good night and see you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.